I opened the door and stepped inside the house, dropping my backpack by the entrance as usual. It had been a long day, and all I wanted was to relax. Normally at this time, Max, my younger brother, would already be home. It had become routine. I always knew I'd find him, either in his room or in the kitchen, but today the house was eerily quiet. It unsettled me for a moment, but I quickly brushed off the feeling. Maybe he was just caught up in a computer game in his room and didn't hear me come in. As I walked down the hallway, I called out, "Max!" There was no reply. I headed upstairs, but when I peeked into his room, it was empty. His school backpack wasn't there either, which surprised me a little. He must have forgotten it at a friend's house, I thought. I returned to my room, opened my laptop, and started working on my homework. A few minutes passed when suddenly I heard Max's voice. "Alex." His voice sounded muffled, as if he were calling me from far away. I paused, but didn't react immediately. He did this kind of thing often, calling me just to tease or joke around. I figured it was just one of his silly pranks again. "Alex," he called again, this time louder. I shook my head, annoyed, and got up from my chair, heading downstairs. "All right, let's see what he wants." "All right." But as soon as I stepped onto the first floor, a cold, oppressive feeling washed over me like something had changed in the house. Everything looked the same, but there was an unmistakable heaviness in the air. "Max," I called, but no one answered. I walked through the entire first floor, checked the kitchen, the living room, even the bathroom, but Max was nowhere to be found. And then it hit me. I was alone in the house. My heart stopped. I had heard his voice so clearly, but how could that be if he wasn't home? Panic started to rise, and I headed back toward the stairs when suddenly I heard light footsteps above me. Someone was walking on the second floor. The steps were slow and heavy, but they were definitely there. Maybe he came back. But how? I didn't hear the door open. The thoughts raced through my head, but I forced myself to climb back up. The stairs creaked under my feet, each sound amplified by the eerie silence. When I reached my room, the footsteps abruptly stopped. I stood in the doorway, staring into the darkness of the hallway. Every instinct inside me screamed that something was wrong. I should have left, but instead I stepped deeper into the house, almost on autopilot. The feeling that I wasn't alone became unbearable. Every step echoed loudly. Every noise seemed sharper than it should have been. "Max," I called out again, but this time my voice sounded hollow and strange, as if the house itself was swallowing it. And then the footsteps resumed. This time they were much closer, as if someone were standing right behind me. I turned around, but there was no one there. My throat went dry and my heart pounded violently in my chest. An unseen force pressed down on my chest. It felt like the shadows on the walls were starting to move. I bolted to my room, slammed the door shut, and locked it. Leaning against the cold wall, I tried to calm my racing heart. The sounds outside the door had gone quiet, but now the house seemed too silent. This ominous quiet felt oppressive, like something was lingering in the air, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The footsteps returned again. This time, they were much clearer, closer, and unnaturally slow. I heard someone stop right outside my door, and then there was silence again. An unnatural, tense silence. My whole body tensed up. I could feel the fear gripping me from head to toe. I closed my eyes and tried to hold my breath, hoping not to give away my presence. But someone was definitely standing outside my door. Minutes passed. The footsteps started again, but this time they were moving away. My heart gradually started to calm down, but I stayed motionless, listening intently to every sound. Suddenly, something heavy fell onto the floor in the hallway with a dull thud. I flinched but didn't dare open the door. Instead, I heard shuffling steps, as if someone was dragging their feet across the floor. After what felt like an eternity, everything went quiet. The house was completely still, and finally I heard the front door open. Voices filled the hallway. My parents and Max had returned home. My mom was cheerfully talking about something, Max was laughing, and I just sat there on the floor, trying to process what had just happened. Gathering all my strength, I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. Everything seemed normal. Max was already sitting in the living room, glued to his phone, and my parents were unpacking groceries in the kitchen. I stood on the stairs, looking around, but nothing was out of the ordinary. I wanted to tell them what had happened, but something inside me stopped. I joined them at the table, but remained silent. No one noticed anything strange. No one felt what I had experienced in my absence. The family went about their usual lives as if nothing had changed. But I knew the truth. Whatever had come into the house would come back. And next time, I might not be able to escape so easily. Now every rustle, every gust of wind, every creak of the floor fills me with dread. The feeling hasn't left. It's become a constant companion, and I know that sooner or later it will come for me again.